We can start. So we're going to do it professionally this time. Okay? So here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. On 3. Are you going to go or am I going to go?
We're so professional. Are you going to go or I'm going to go?
I'll go.
Okay, go.
Wait, but this is your podcast. Do you go when it's your turn? Or do I go?
Hey everybody.
Oh, God. Okay. Go for it.
Welcome to Wholehearted Living with Valerie.
And Benny.
How are you, Benny?
I'm good. And it's Iggy, too. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So thanks for keeping us in sound, Iggy. We are here today. It's a beautiful day. And I have news. What'd she say?
In the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood. Yeah. You know what? Patty actually makes fun of me because we have our little shoe shelf over there.
Oh.
And every time I walk in, I take off my shoes and I put on my thing, and I usually have, in the winter, I'm wearing a big coat. So then I take it off and then I put on a different kind of coat. And she's like, oh my God, you're totally like Mr. Rogers.
That is very funny.
And I do that every single.
That's funny. You said do.
I do. I do. That's that's that joke.
I know.
You told me that joke.
Oh, you do you?
Oh, you do you?
Remember? The wide-mouthed frog.
The big mouth frog.
Wide mouth frog.
Have you heard that joke? Okay, no. Valerie, tell the joke.
No, I can't. You have to see it, so it's not going to mean anything to
now,
the
our
listener.
YouTube friends are freaking out right now. No, okay, you don't have to tell it. Everybody look it up. I'm sure it's famous.
K. Oh man, is that what her name was? She's the one that taught it to us. She was a girl from NRC. She kind of was like not in charge of Koinonia, but she was like kind of a
chaperone.
Yeah, chaperone.
Okay. Yeah, no idea who you're talking
about.
Anyway, well, I have news. You want to hear my news?
You graduated.
I did. How come you're saying that?
I don't know. It's been like every week, like I'm graduating. So you actually graduated?
So yesterday I finally got the document that said, so I'm officially a master's graduate. I graduated my master's degree. So now I still have a crap load of things to do, but I'm done with that. So that's really exciting to finally go, okay, I'm done. The next big thing that you're going to hear me talk about a lot is trying to figure out, I have to become now an associate family therapist, and so instead of a licensed family therapist, or associate, and so there's a bunch of paperwork to submit, and so I got to do that. And then once I do that, basically my life stays pretty much the same, but it'll give me a financial bump, and then I could apply to a lot of places instead of just being where I'm at right now. So yeah, that's
very
happy.
That was a long time.
It was 3 years, coming up on 3 years. Like I'm just about at 3 years. I think I started in May or June of 3 years ago, whatever that is.
That's so crazy because it feels like it was so long ago, but then now it's like, oh, it went by so fast.
I think it's because we're so old. Do you remember elementary school? Like, I remember elementary school, and honest to God, feeling like school would never end.
Yeah. And Christmas took forever.
Yeah. Well, then the summer, you would come around the summer and it's like, when is it going to be summer? When do we not have to go to school anymore? Yeah. And it was like, it just felt like it took
so
forever.
Long.
And then nowadays, every day seems like Monday.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know.
That it's like, how's
and now
Monday
that I'm
again?
working in the school system and I do get the summers off, I feel like the summer, I remember the last 5 or 6 years of working, just going, how does summer go by this fast? When I was in school, it seemed like summer took forever.
There were times that even when I got to junior high school where I kind of started going, I kind of want to go back to school.
Right?
Because it was like, there was my friends and stuff. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying the summer, but it was like, I missed certain people.
It felt like it was forever.
Yeah,
and now
really
it's like, oh my gosh, we already got to go back.
So do you want to know why it happens? An engineer told me
You already
this.
told us.
Oh, I did?
Yep.
Oh, well then shut up. I'm still going to tell our listeners because they really want to know. It's because the older we get, it's a year is less a percentage of our life. So when you're 5, and a year is a fifth of your life. That's a long time. But when you're 55, 60, it's a tenth of your life
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So so every day goes by faster and faster.
Yeah.
It doesn't, obviously it's still
Go
24
by that
hours.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also too, I mean, that makes sense. But also too, if you think about like your schedule when you're 5, like how much do you have to do?
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
and then now it's like, oh my gosh, how do I fit it all in a day? Or, oh my gosh, how do I fit this all in this week? You know, and it's just like,
do you kind of laugh sometimes when you hear, like, because I do therapy for teens sometimes, and it's always funny when they say, I'm just so busy.
I know.
I'm like, oh, shut up. That's what I want to say.
I know.
But
That's not a very good therapist.
No,
You're
it's
fired.
not. Exactly. So you don't say that. And quite frankly, I remember being a teen and feeling like that.
Yeah.
But
then you look back and you're like, oh, that was nothing.
That was nothing. It's like, and then the pressures that they're feeling. Now, some of them are legit. I get it. And then sometimes the pressures are like, wow, you've really got this in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's, because in 10 years you're going to be going, why was I concerned
Worried about that. Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
yeah. But anywho, that's often the case for almost everything that happens to us, right? That there's so many things that people worry about, and 10 years later, you're like, why did I really worry about that?
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what's funny is, I mean,
The wide mouth frog was funny, but you didn't want to talk about that. So when you say what is funny,
no, but I was thinking
was
about, thinking about why do I worry about this stuff? If you are watching this video, I'm letting my hair, I couldn't wear a hat with this thing on anyway, so I would have had to take my hat off. But today's the first day I wore my hair without a hat on.
she wore it, folks.
I wore
she
it
has
without
a wig.
No, but I didn't cover it up today at school, and partly because my head hurts wearing a hat every day. Like by the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this thing off. But the other part was, we have a friend. Well, I have a couple friends going through cancer. One of them has already gone through cancer and is in remission. And she has all her hair back and stuff. Well, Rhonda, the girl that we...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another girl that I know that goes to our church who's going through it right now. Like she's bald. And so I was just kind of thinking about both of them because Rhonda, I think it's her anniversary or something. She just had something on her Instagram where I was like looking at her pictures from back in the day to
And Rhonda,
now.
folks, we interviewed a few months ago. So
maybe I'll try to remember to put that in the description so they can look back. That was a good episode.
Yeah.
But I thought, here I am so worried about people seeing my transition to gray. And, you know, we have people that are battling cancer and losing their hair and that kind of thing. And I'm like, you got to put things in perspective and not worry about.
And it looks good.
Certain things.
Honestly, when I walked in, because I was working, I came down and you guys were preparing.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And then, but I saw you and I thought, oh my gosh, I like it. I like the fact that,
I'm not bothered by it, but, I always thought I would wait until it was like longer. The gray part was longer to start wearing it out, but I'm just like, I can't do a hat every day. And nowadays, you know, even the spray that I want to just spray in my part is, I'd have to use the whole can, you know?
Oh, right.
And then if the wind blows, you can see it everywhere else. So it's like, it doesn't even make sense. Yeah. But
I don't think it looks bad at all.
Thank you.
I actually like it, but I also am very aware of your transition to doing this. And so blah, blah, blah. But I can't imagine anybody looking and say, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know?
I just had people at school today going, are you letting your gray grow out?
That's such a dumb question.
I know.
Though. What do they think? What do they think you're doing? No, it's Halloween in my house. I'm going the skunk look.
Well, and because I'm not going to lie. There's one woman. Wait,
everybody. Put it in your journal. She's not going to lie.
No, but there is one woman, and she actually saw me today and was joking with me, like, have I not seen you in a long time? Why do you know?
That's funny.
She's a PTA woman, so she's not always on campus, but at the same time she is. But she doesn't realize she has seen me, but I've been wearing a hat.
Oh, right.
And so, but she is one that will let her gray grow for months before she puts it back, before she dyes it again. Yeah.
Oh,
and so it was funny because I said something to her one day when it was dyed. I go, oh, I thought you were letting it grow out. She goes, shut up. I go, no, I'm serious because it was such a long, you know, a big wide stripe of gray. And I said, and you were one of my inspirations. She goes, no, I'm just lazy. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's so funny.
Part of me is like, I hope people think I'm not lazy, you know, but whatever. I mean, who cares what people think, right?
No kidding. People think you're lazy. Gosh, that doesn't make any sense.
But,
yeah, no. And I think most people would recognize that, oh, she's making a conscious choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
well, that's actually why I kind of pulled it back in a little some up, some down, because if it's just down, it just looks like the skunk stripe. Where now it looks like, oh, this is intentional. She's showing her gray.
oh, yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do like it.
Thank you.
I do like it. It's fun. I mean, it'll be interesting as it goes totally gray. And it's going to be a while, though. It seems like you've been talking about this for a while, and it's just still on the top of your head.
Years. It's going to be years.
I seriously thought when you were talking about the cancer patient that you were thinking, I'm seriously considering just shaving my head.
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
You guys will be matching.
Yes, exactly.
They won't know who's who.
Yes. Anyway, okay, well, cool. It's your subject today, isn't it?
It is. And that brings me to, I don't think we said this. This is a podcast where one of us comes in with the subject and the other one doesn't know what it is. And then we chat about it.
Yeah.
So this isn't really a surprising subject because we kind of talked about it, but it is new to everyone else out there in listener viewer land. Mm-hmm. And it's something I wanted to talk about today because it's bittersweet. It's a little humbling and it's a little, but it gives me peace.
Okay.
So.
Are you going to ask me a question?
No.
Oh.
Cool. It is about the fact that we're moving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it's really not a lot. It's just really going to share. I'm going to share with you guys. So about 10 years ago, as you guys know, we had to sell our house. And it's a very long story, but long story short, Peter's business, when he was a partner in the business, the business kind of plummeted. And so he couldn't pay himself for a long time. And so I don't know how the mortgage company back then said, oh, we forgot about you and just didn't ask us.
Well, it was also, that was that season, if I remember correctly, this is all when the real estate market went to poop. So, because it was around the same time that, yeah. But anyway, go for it. Yeah,
but they just lost sight of us. And
right.
For whatever reason, I actually thought it was God sent that we were able to keep staying there and living there and not trying to find a place to live with no income, basically, because I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And anyway, all that to say, at one point we tried to,
renegotiate.
We tried to. Yeah, exactly. And it was like, it just wasn't feasible. The mortgage was going to be way too high. The mortgage per month was going to be way too high. And so we're like, okay, we got to sell. And we moved and we've been renting since then. So fast forward to now, I am 60 years old and we could never buy back in the area. If we wanted to buy back in the area, it would cost more than our first house cost to put down on a house.
So anybody who's listening and you're thinking, what does it cost? So a house in our area, let's just say a 2-bedroom, 1 bath or 2 baths is, depending on exactly what area, but if a house would be basically $1 million or
Mm-hmm.
800,000. And then maybe a townhome or something is 500,000 to 700,000 or 700,000, something like that. So
So if you're somebody that's in your 20s, 30s, and you're like, okay, well, I want to buy a house and I want to pay more mortgage for 30 years, that's doable. But I'm 60, I'm not wanting to pay a mortgage for 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I decided to start looking into, I'm looking for rentals at this point, just trying to, because our current landlord was going to sell. And so I'm like, to try to stay ahead of the game, I'm looking for rentals. And then suddenly mobile homes started popping up, not for rent, but for purchase. And so I'm like, okay, and just kind of look at some were just amazingly gorgeous inside. And I'm just like, oh, I guess you can do whatever you want inside, Long story short, we ended up deciding to purchase a mobile home. Peter dragging his feet at first. He was like, nope, not going to do it. Not going to live in a mobile home park. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. I'm 60. If we buy it, we couldn't buy it cash, but if we bought it and just paid it off for 10 years, it's actually cheaper than our rent right now.
Yeah.
And in this particular area that we are buying, it's rent controlled, land lease controlled. So our land lease is way cheaper than what a rental would be on a house, like way cheaper than what it would be on a house. And
so it just to go there, $3,000 to rent. Like
easily. In our neighborhood, everything that was going up for rent when I was starting to look was like around $4,000 per month. And so, if something, like I was telling Peter, I said, you got to think about, like, if something were to happen to you, because he kept just saying, I'm going to work the rest of my life. And I said, but what if something happens and you can't? And also, even if you could work the rest of your life, I'm selfish. I kind of want to retire together. Like someday I want us to be able to.
When I'm at home, I don't want you going to work.
Yeah. And I just, I understand if you still want to do something, but I don't want it to be, you have to do something.
Yeah.
And then if something were to happen to you, I know on even my own retirement, I could afford to live in this house.
Yeah.
And so, he finally, I basically just said, pray about it. Cause I don't know what else to say. I'm not going to make you do something you really don't want to do. And then about a week later, he said, all right, well, let's go look at the place you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, okay. And we walked in and he was pleasantly surprised. It's an old woman lives there. So it's very dated in terms of how it was decorated. But, you just walk in and go, oh, okay, well, we can paint that wall. We can do this. We can replace that. We can do, and just that kind of stuff. When it's your own place, you can do whatever you want. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
which you guys haven't been able to do for 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's completely on board. And I know before the podcast started, you asked me how he was feeling about it. And I'm like, he's like more gung-ho than I am. He's looking at, YouTube videos on how to replace this, how to do this, how to remodel this, how to, so it's kind of exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
And the reason
he's going to get to do something and make it personalized and not worry about
something that we sit in our house right now. We're like, if this was our place, we would do this. But it's too silly to do to someplace that we're renting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the reason I said it's kind of humbling, because, I never thought in this time of my life that I would be saying, oh, we're going to move in a mobile home park.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just feel very at peace about it. And everything kind of fell into place because now Kylie wants to move out and she started looking for a place and she's like, what if I don't find a place before you move? And I said, we'll work it out. Like, just don't stress about it. And she ends up getting approved this week for a place and she ends up getting a transfer to the area that she's moving from for her job. And it's like, everything is just working out. And so, what am I trying to say? Oh, so the other thing about it is that it is a 55 and older community, which
I love.
Yeah, I was like, I walked through that place, and you guys know, if the listener, we live on a very busy street, 190th Street, if you're familiar, and you just hear cars go by all the time. I've gotten used to it. I really have, because it's just, you hear it, right?
But it is loud.
It is loud. And so when we went and saw this place, we were walking through this, I'm like, it's almost too quiet. But it isn't. It's wonderful. And so, but you still can have, like, it was kind of funny because I said...
And it has a pool.
It has a pool and a rec room. And I said, am I allowed to have, like, I know it's 55 and older, but can I have my grandbabies over? And they're like, oh, of course. She goes, if you're going to have them over for longer than 30 days, then you need to sign a little... I'm like, 30 days? I'm talking about one day.
It's not going to a few hours. They go home with it.
Yes. Yeah. But so I was happy that was a, option or whatever. I mean, it wasn't a deal breaker, that kind of thing. So it evolved within 2 weeks of, Peter, do you want to look at this house? No, I don't. To, okay, I'll look at it. And then the following week we're in escrow. It's like, That's how fast it all went and is going. So now we're purging because our house holds a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
our current house holds a lot of stuff. And we're like, yeah, we need to get rid of stuff that we've been storing just because we had the space to store it. And it's like, we need to...
I do kind of like the fact that our house is not very big, because it's like every time Patty buys something, I'm always like, what are we getting rid of?
Yeah. Isn't that a good idea?
That's the only way you could do it. It's like, because if you don't, it's like, what else do you do?
Well, it's funny because Peter bought he has to purge like clothing and stuff like that. Although it's a walk-in closet, it's pretty big. And then now that we have the other second bedroom to ourselves without Kylie, we can use that as a closet. But he bought a couple shirts the other day and he goes, don't worry, I'm getting rid of a couple because I'm like, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I do appreciate the fact that it's nice to not have to have a lot of storage. I mean, not store just because you can store.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, like I am avoiding this podcast with just how it's kind of humbling. It's kind of, and the funny thing is like every day I wake up thinking, okay, I have this to do. I have that to do. I have this to do. Oh my gosh, we have this. But then we have Easter. Oh, we have Benny's party. Oh my gosh, we have Marley's birthday. Oh my gosh, Mom's birthday. I'm like, and we only have, so how do we fit our actual purge and pack on the weekends when our weekends are kind of taken up, and it's kind of nerve wracking. And then I read this, I have this book that Mom gave me, like a devotional for my birthday or whatever. It's called Jesus Calling, Enjoying the Peace in His Presence. Sorry, Jesus calling, enjoy the peace in his presence. And I couldn't find it. I meant to find it before the podcast started, but one day when all this stuff was going through my mind, like, oh my gosh, this is happening. What are we going to, I have this day that we have to do this and that. And even this weekend, I thought, oh, this weekend, we're just going to stay home and do it all. And then she's like, no, you need to come to the inspection. They're going to inspect. And so you need to come and hear the list of things that if there's anything that you want to address. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, that's right in the middle of the day, Yeah. And so it's like, oh, okay. But
could be a welcome break.
It could be. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But the one thing I read the other day was so awesome because it just talked about, calling on his name, and your mind is cluttered, and you're, I wish I would have found it because I'm not even giving it justice, but it was talking about my mind being cluttered and that I'm not giving it to him. I'm taking it all on and trying to, just randomly compartmentalize what I need to do. But I'm not letting any of it go. Like I'm holding on to it. And he was just like, give it to me, let it go. And, it was just very interesting to read that particular day. Cause I'm like, this is kind of how I felt this whole time. Like every time something comes up, I'm just like holding on to it. And it's like, just let it go. It's, give it. And that was the other thing with Kylie too. Cause she was so stressed out about the transfer just yesterday. She's like, I don't know. I guess I just have to,
drive.
Commute. And that's what I was trying to get rid of by moving out to Glendale, Right. And I'm like, babe, something will happen. It's going to work out. And I just started praying about it, in my own mind, just Lord, just give her something to hang her hat on that the transfer will happen. And, even if it's not tomorrow, cause she says, I don't even think they're going to try to do it, And so then when she called me on the way over here today and said, oh my gosh, it's going to happen. And I'm like, oh yes. It just feels so good when things kind of line up. And I know that's not always the case, but I think when you do let it go and just not hold on to it so hard, it just seems like it's easier. It just seems like things fall into place the way they're supposed to fall into place.
Yeah. Cause we do. I mean, obviously, the phrase I use is we have to surrender.
Yes.
Because really 90% of the time what it comes down to is it's our own control. Like we're trying to control something and that's the reason why it bounces around in our mind, because we're constantly in this mindset of, well, how am I going to handle that? How am I going to handle that? How am I going to... And I even noticed that it all often, you've said a couple of things that's interesting to me, and I, here's the therapist in me, but actually the life coach, everything about me, just Benny. It's just who I am. But you've said, it's kind of humbling. And I think it's interesting because that phrase is making the assumption about because the reason why it's humbling, I'm guessing, is because of a preconceived idea that you have about what it means to live in a mobile home, I'm guessing, right?
Well, yeah, because honestly, we bought a house in West Torrance, which is a very nice area in Southern California. And it was a good size home. It wasn't completely upgraded or anything like that, but that was my plan, is to upgrade and, do things to it. So then having to leave that and thinking, okay, we'll rent for a while, but we're going to buy back. We're going to buy back in the area. And then things just skyrocketed to, out of control. And it's like, how are we going to save $500,000 when we're paying $33,000 a month in rent, and to buy into the homes that keep going up. And so then so yes, it is a preconceived thing of like, okay, well, here we're going to go. We're going to step way back from West Torrance to a rental to now into a mobile home. And to me, that's the level of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's to me, it's like a downgrade.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel when I say it's humbling, I also feel very at peace about it. I really do.
Well, and that's the thing, right? And that's where I'm going. That's where I was kind of going with it is, and see, because you've reconciled yourself to the fact that that this is okay, that there's nothing wrong with it, right? And so what that is you transforming your mind to the fact that, you know what, this isn't what I thought. Maybe it isn't what I expected. I had hoped for something else, and there was a season when I thought it was going to happen, and there was no reason to think otherwise.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, so this was not necessarily part of the dream. But my point is to say, you know, when we're content with whatever we have and when we're experiencing whatever we have, all of a sudden we can go, when we change our mindset toward whatever that thing is, whatever is we're experiencing potentially is a blessing. It's something that's very, very good.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, just like, because like you said with Kylie, if she did not get transferred, well, we don't know what would have come of that and what would have been the possibilities of her. We don't know.
Right.
We just don't know. And because I don't think it always does fall into place. And I really hate saying it that way. Every time I get nervous about that because then there's an implication that if you live your life right, it always falls into place.
Well, no,
perfect.
and when I say it falls into place, I don't necessarily mean our wants and wishes, because I would have never wanted and wished for a mobile home.
Right.
But what I mean is it falls into place how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And to be able to accept that is the key thing.
Exactly.
Because ultimately it's like, if we don't surrender our own desires and wants and go, and it's not a matter of surrendering goals and saying, well, I'm not going to have that goal anymore. Have the goal and even shoot for the goal, but learn to be content in your current circumstances.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
the key thing.
Yeah.
Because
and
we still don't know if you guys are going to all of a sudden come into money and go buy a house.
Exactly.
We really have no idea.
And at this point, I'm like, well, this is going to be for our home just because we're doing this when I'm 60. But at the same time, it's like, well, we're not going to not
deny ourselves
if something else could happen. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of funny though. There's this funny little story because, you know, Kelly, my sister-in-law, they bought a house.
Who's a listener? Shout out.
Yes, she is. Okay. Oh, maybe she's listening right now. Kelly, I'm talking about you.
Well, probably not right now because right now she's never going to hear it.
But no, she bought a house. Her and her husband bought a house in San Pedro, and it's a very they didn't even move into it. They pretty much gutted it and made it the way they wanted it before they actually moved into the house. And then they recently built a built-in pool, a gorgeous pool that kind of overlooks you can see, it's kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a glass pool surround, like instead of a fence, it's glass.
Oh, right.
So you can see the ocean.
So you can see right through. It's like you could see the pool, the ocean, the pool water, and then go right into the infinity
it's not
pool.
Necessarily an infinity pool because it's not going off the edge. The water's not, but you can see out. So anyway, all that to say, when they started building the pool and I started seeing, she was sending me some of the pictures of like this is what's happening now. And so I remember showing Peter one day and just going, okay, look at their pool. And they're putting this rock formation and there's a slide. And he's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then he goes, I'm sorry, I can't offer you that. Like, you know, I forgot exactly how he worded it, but I'm sorry that I can't offer you more or whatever. I said, you know what, sweetie, I just want to be married to my best friend and I would live in a shack with you. So that was years ago when we were talking that way. And I was telling Mom about when we were talking about looking at this mobile home. And Mom was like,
here's the shack.
And I go, this is our shack.
That's too funny. Yeah.
But it's not going to look like a shack. I'll tell you right now, because Peter's so gung-ho about updating this thing that it's like, I'm excited about it. And he even wants to, there's a part that when we were waiting for the realtor to show up to go over some of the paperwork, she was running a little late, so we were just standing there looking at some of the houses. And there's this one particular one that we're just like, that looks like a house you'd see on Mom and Dad's street. It does not at all look like a mobile home. And one of the reasons is because they have shingles on the roof right. And the way they did their wooden porch and the window and everything, it's beautiful. And Peter's like, I'd like to do our house like that. I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. So sure enough, come to find out when she goes, and the manager's on site, he's in mobile home number 3. And we're like, oh, 1, 2, 3. That was his.
That's his. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's too funny.
Yeah.
But I do think Peter's getting ahead of himself because he was talking about the 3rd floor that he's trying to build.
And a basement. He wants a basement.
No. That's right. No, well, I think it's super fun and I'm glad. And I think the interesting thing for me is about, from what you're saying, is about contentment, accepting your realities, and then making choices. Another thing that was interesting that you talked about is how things are bouncing around in your head. And yeah, I'm really big on getting those things out of your head, because when they stay in your head, they just bounce around and they cause clutter. They make you feel
That's the
overwhelmed.
word. That's the word that that was used in this journal. The clutter in your mind.
Yeah.
But that prompted me, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that did prompt me to start writing everything down, because once I got it out of here, like, I'm like, yeah, there's too much clutter. I need to give it to him. And I also need to write it down, because once it's down, then I'm like, okay, I can look at it later when I need to get
That's
to
right.
that.
And then you also, there's two things that you can do with it. One is just throw it away, because sometimes it's just a matter of getting it out of your mind. And then the second thing is, you could decide what you want to do with it, because sometimes you can look at it. And then often what happens too, when you have clutter in your mind, you think you got a lot more on your mind than you actually do.
It's
and
true.
then when you write the things down, you go, there's six things.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing to myself?
Exactly. Because you don't want to forget what's in your mind. So it's
Exactly.
constantly spinning. But once you get it down, you're like, oh, that's not really as long a list as I thought. Yeah.
As big of a list. Sometimes what I because this not only works with what you're talking about, but it also works with just emotional pains, things that have happened to you, things that you've done that you regret, and being able to write those things down. Because a lot of people, I think one of the biggest things that people have a trouble with is forgiving themselves. So they really struggle with that. And so one of the things that a person could do is write down everything that they're struggling with, that either they did or something they didn't do. Maybe they thought that they should have interjected or done something, or they missed an opportunity, and writing all those things down and then looking at them and then deciding whether or not you can forgive yourself. Because I just think that's I call it externalizing. It's taking it out of your mind so that it's not stuck there. Because another thing we do is we own it. We end up owning stuff and saying, I am this way, or I am that way, and that's dangerous.
Well, and now we're getting on this whole other subject, but I love this subject. But there's two things I was going to say. Was when Peter was in therapy, the things came up about his dad, his relationship with his dad, and how he felt about his dad, or how he was treated, or whatever it was. And the therapist told him to write a letter to his dad, so he did. And then he went back to the next week for therapy or whatever, and said, okay, I wrote my letter. Do you want it? Do you want to see it? Do I mail it to my dad? Do I give it? And he's like, no, it's yours. You either throw it away or you keep it for reference, but you're not, it's what would change if you gave it to your dad? He's like, well, probably nothing. He goes, okay, well, you got it out and now it's out, so
that's right.
it's, and then my second point was, I was listening to this girl. I joined this thing. It's probably been a year or two. And it was just a group of girls that were talking. And anyway, she ran it. I don't know if she was a life coach or not, but anyway, she ran the little group up with us. And she said to us the same thing, like things about yourself that you either don't like, you can't forgive, or you're holding a grudge, write down if you're holding a grudge against somebody that you don't want to hold that grudge against, whatever it was. Like, she just gave us a list of things. I jotted things down as she was talking. And then she goes, and after you read it over, after we close and you read it over read it to yourself again and burn it. Like, literally go. And so I did. Peter's like, where are you going? I'm going, can you light the fireplace in the backyard? And I literally stuck it there. I go, I'm letting it go. It's gone, and really just trying to let that part like be done. And
well, that's huge, because that's the other thing, right? Is being able to, and for us, I would say it's all about forgiveness. So there's a lot, and like I said, forgiving yourself. And a lot of people will say, well, I have trouble forgiving myself, but I can forgive other people. And I'm just going to tell you you're wrong. If you can't do it to yourself, you can't do it to other people. You're thinking you are, but it's probably a very shallow forgiveness, because if you can't, you can't give something to somebody else that you don't have. So you can't say, here's $100 if you don't have $100.
Right. And you mentioned a long time ago something about you can't truly love someone else if you don't love yourself.
That's right. If you don't love yourself, how is it possible that you could even demonstrate love? Because you don't even know what it is. So the idea is, what would you want to do for your daughter, for your son, for whatever? And if you're forgiving somebody and you're saying you're forgiving them, why? And whatever you're going to say about them, you need to do it in the mirror and say the same thing. And but this is where, again, getting it out of your head and writing it down, etc. Because if you don't, it just seems like insurmountable. It seems like this is not possible. I can't do this.
Totally.
And if you don't, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And you will ultimately you pay the price. You know, it's that classic thing of it's like drinking poison and thinking you're punishing another person. You're not.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, but I'm really happy for you guys. Cause I know we've been talking about what you're going to have to do. And they, you know, a year ago threatened, I don't know if the right word's threatened.
Right.
But
they were thinking about
basically
selling
saying,
it.
we're going to sell the place. And then you guys were like, oh God.
Yeah.
And then you go for a whole year wondering what's going to happen and trying to figure it out. So it's just nice to kind of wash your hands and go, okay, this is our new chapter. Now, whether or not it's the last chapter, it is irrelevant.
But it's our chapter.
At least you know this is the direction you're going right now.
And I do feel at peace about it. And so, yeah, it's kind of exciting, but it is a little nerve wracking because we don't have a lot of time to get out.
Yeah.
But
I've told you about moving, right? I read this somewhere a while ago. This was years ago, but they say the stress of moving.
Oh yeah.
Is the equivalent of the stress of a loved one dying.
Yeah.
Now it's not the same emotionally.
Right.
So I'm not talking about emotional feelings, okay? Because obviously moving could be exciting.
Right.
But the stress, that the wear and tear on your body and mentally and all those thoughts, everything, it's similar. It's the same level, so to speak,
of the stress or anxiety of
someone dying.
Yeah.
And so
I mean I don't.
You're not a stressed out person in general.
But I understand that because I'm sorry, everybody's moved, but you think about everything. You're like, oh, that's right. I got to do the utilities. I got to transfer. Oh my gosh, I have subscription orders that come to the house. I got to make sure I change my address. Like just everything is like compounded.
Well, and then the practicality of, okay, where am I going to go to the gym? How am I going to drive to work? Is this even worth, what am I going to do this way? How's this going to work? And
Right.
And, okay, this is going to change what time I have to leave because of X, Y, and Z. And then what about my kids coming over? And, there's so many different things.
Yeah,
so
very much.
Yeah.
But it all works out.
That's right.
It does.
Be content.
And I was, even though this is, well, it's on the subject, but it's funny because our membership is over with UFC in May.
The gym
UFC. And there's a gym just 5 to 7 minutes away from the new place. And so we walked through that and we're like, oh, okay, well, this is good. It has everything we need. So it's just kind of funny how it just played into that very same month. So we don't have to make a decision with UFC. It's either stay or go, and we can go and not miss a day of workout.
Yay. How is, what's your last word on this?
Oh, well, you know what is really funny? This isn't really my last word because I can talk a lot, but you know what's funny? I think the last time we did a podcast together, I was talking about, or maybe we didn't talk about it, but Peter and I were leaving to go meet Kelly and our family at the Elks Lodge to listen to a band. And the Elks Lodge is like an old folk type place to go.
Yeah, kind of like where people that live in a 55 and older.
Exactly. And with people with gray hair, as I'm letting my gray, I'm like, wow, this is just all seamlessly falling into place.
Gosh, that's so funny.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, pretty soon we're going to see you at, IHOP doing the breakfast.
I guess my final thing is just to embrace the change that lays before you. Sometimes it is because you want the change, or sometimes it's just the way the chips fall, and you have to make that decision. Like I said, Peter was like dead set against this, and I was just like, but we kind of almost don't really have a choice unless we really want to pay $4,000 a month in rent,
right,
till the day we die, and we can't do that on a retirement income.
I think it really sounds like it was a matter for him to drop
his expectation.
Yeah, because it was like, no, because I still think we're going to get that thing. And it's like saying, okay, I'm surrendering that now.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes back to that surrender thing.
A lot of prayer, a lot of just, being okay with what is right now in our life.
That's right.
Yeah.
So be okay with what you got going on, and not to say not to have goals, not to say not to have ambition, but for whatever reason you're in the circumstance you're in, you can stay there and be happy about it.
Exactly.
Very cool, folks.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, well, I had to. It's my podcast. Okay.
All right, you guys.
Hey, it's very good to have you. I'm glad that you guys are following us at wholehearted_living_podcast. And so we'd love to hear from you. And write your little comments and do your little likes. Iggy, thank you so much
for keeping us in
sound.
I'll be here next week too.
Okay.
Thank you. Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll chat with you guys next week. Bye.
Ciao.